Down and the big pitch coming in from US President Donald Trump in a speech that lasted almost an hour. US President Donald Trump once again made his claims that have been fact-checked time and time again. Donald Trump accused India of being one of the primary funders of the Russia-Ukraine war, adding that he has been able to resolve 7 wars, including the clash between India and Pakistan. He also lambasted the United Nations for doing nothing to push for peace across the globe. Listen in.
I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. And they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products. I ended 7 wars, and in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
And I'm joined by my colleague Siddhant Mishra on the broadcast. So Siddhant, the same pitch, not just for his domestic MAGA audience, but now on the global stage, making those claims once again that have been fact-checked time and time again. And in the case of the Russia-Ukraine war, once again, he's called India and China the primary funders of the war. He's even called out his own NATO allies, but very conveniently ignoring the fact that the United States still enjoys, high octane trade with the Russian Federation.
Well, that's right, Ayushman. In fact, this was a 57 minutes long speech by President Trump at United Nations. In fact, ahead of his speech, there was this massive protest also outside the United Nations. Now, President Trump's speech was filled with familiar grievances and, in fact, false claims criticizing the UN as ineffective. In fact, President Trump also criticized the United Nations as ineffective and lectured its member nations on how they are failing in meandering hour-long speech before the General Assembly. In fact, President Trump, as you rightly said, did mention India and China, that how India and China have been the biggest importer of Russian crude, and perhaps they are fueling the Russia's war. But he also acknowledged that how NATO countries are buying crude from Russia, and he says that I just got to know this 2 weeks ago, and I was not happy. So I respond, one thing is for sure, that at the time President Trump imposed 25% additional tariff on India for buying Russian crude, at that point in time he was not fully briefed by his advisors, because he himself has confessed that he was not aware of the fact that the other European countries are also buying the Russian crude. So this is a very important point which needs to be highlighted. It is only when India created noise and perhaps in a statement made things clear that how how the other European nations are also buying Russian crude, then only President Trump got to know the reality of and the full facts of Russian crude exports. Also, President Trump reiterated a criticism about Britain not drilling more oil in the North Sea. In fact, he did touch upon many points. In fact, repeated his claim that he has ended 7 wars during his address at the United States and the United Nations. It's too bad I had to do these things instead of the United Nations. So perhaps he also wanted to, send this message out that since United Nations is ineffective, he is one effective. His administration is the effective body, rather, who is bringing end to the wars, the conflicts happening worldwide. So that is also kind of a parallel which he did try to create during his address at the United Nations. In fact, Trump again boasted about his role as a resolver of world conflicts, the campaigns for Nobel Peace Prize, etc. He spoke about that. So as I said, it was a 57 minutes long speech, the longest ever by President Trump at the United Nations, and also now his administration is praising him for delivering a 57 minutes long speech without a teleprompter.
Right. Thanks, Siddhant, for decoding that for us. So clearly, Trump, the same old grievances coming now on the global stage at the United Nations General Assembly, but once again ignoring very conveniently the facts about American-Russian trade as he takes on both India and China, as well as his own NATO allies over enjoying trade ties with Russia, accusing all these nations of fueling the war machine between Russia and Ukraine. But my colleague Sanjay Suri is also getting us this report from New York as the war of words continues to escalate on the diplomatic stage, creating more problems when it comes to the global order. Listen in.
We had an immediate verdict on Donald Trump's speech at the United Nations from Donald Trump himself. Surprise, that he posted on his Truth Social platform straight after that it went down very well. He certainly went on for longer than the 15 minutes allotted to a speaker, almost an hour. Trump went on about his own successes at length, again hardly unusual, and principally in tackling illegal migration. And to Europe in that context, he said that migration is bringing death because it has been invaded by a force of illegal aliens and is going to hell for it. He blamed the United Nations for being complicit in what he saw as this crime for funding and encouraging such migration. And he blamed the United Nations for feeding what he called the hoax of global warming and the con of climate change. In this, he insisted he was right because he said he's right about everything. And when Trump says that, he is not joking. The United Nations, he said, he couldn't get his teleprompter right and the escalators right. And again, he was being rather serious. Trump defended tariffs as a defense mechanism for the United States. He said the U.S. has been exploited for too long. We've heard all that before. He called on European nations to hit Russia through oil tariffs, and that's in line with what he says the U.S. has done. Tariffs and oil, of course, stand now as the big two barriers between the U.S. and India, and it doesn't look like they're about to go away in a hurry, despite all the pleasantries that we keep hearing from time to time.